Remember, they trailed 16-0. Hurts up the middle. Hurts stretching out. Hurts touchdown. Tie ball game in the desert. Now over the middle. Crumpler, what a throw, what a hit, what a catch. Algie Crumpler hung on after getting 4th and goal. Thinking to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Boom, touchdown.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Turf Talk. As you guys know, this is presented to you by DSM Media. You can find DSM Media on all platforms. We will have the Linktree link right in the comments and replies below on every social media platform. As you guys know, I'm the host with my co-host here, Dylan Davis. You guys can find him on Twitter at DylanJD98. You can find me on Twitter at Scotty Drown. And we are greeted by a very special guest, my man Sam Wagman. As you guys find him on Twitter, which I'm sure some of you guys already follow him. He has a ton of followers on Twitter. I've watched this guy spark it up over the last year or so, and he's really grown into something it's amazing to see, Sam. You guys can find him on Twitter at Swagman95. What's up, Sam? How are you doing today, my man?
For me, I just ate for the first time in 24 hours, so I'm happy about that. And then I get to come hop on the show with you guys, talk the game, talk last week's games, and then we go watch the game. So this is the middle part of what will be a great night for me. Obviously Thursday nights, one of the best nights of the week behind Sunday nights and Monday nights. So
Sure.
Here we are, and let's get right into it.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, thank you for coming on. And this is the greatest football pregame show you will find out there, guys. I don't know why my cheeks look so rosy right now. It's freezing in this basement. Something might be wrong with me. I apologize for the rosy cheeks. But Sam, before we get into our Week 1 recap and some Thursday night football talk, you hinted at a story before we went live here, my man, about last Monday night's game, and I need to hear about it.
I'm not really a big DFS player. I kind of got into it, a little bit over the years, but it wasn't really until I started creating fantasy content that I landed, in an area where everybody is good at that kind of stuff, and it's not just me kind of fumbling my way around. So I was able to kind of go with some of my friends who are big DFS guys. In particular, my buddy Bo McBrayer at Bo_McBigTime on Twitter, big DFS guy over with me at Ball Blast. But, he laid out some guys for the Monday night slate for the Ravens-Raiders game. And, I followed it, and I took Mark Andrews out that he was recommending, and I put Justin Tucker and Hunter Renfrow in under that. But I think I was rocking with Darren Waller in the captain slot, for the showdown slate. And Lamar, Tyson Williams, Justin Tucker, Hunter Renfrow, and I think that's it. I can't remember. But anyways, I just kept seeing the money tick up and up and up, to the point where, once Darren Waller scored that touchdown with 42 seconds left, I was tied for first in the Millie Maker with 8 other people winning $50,000. And then the kickoff happened, and I watched Bryan Edwards get 2 catches and a Daniel Carson field goal, sent the game into overtime, which basically killed my lineup. But it was thrilling for me. I really did think for a second that I was going to win, in between 5 and 6 figures worth of money there, and it was exhilarating. It's the closest I've ever been. I was asked my bosses over at Ball Blast. Once I told them that I was winning, they said, you need to write DFS content next week. I think I said, I think I can't take it. I would probably have a heart attack from the Swins. So, I go into DFS now with a much rosier outlook on things, like knowing that it can actually be done, something that didn't seem like I could ever do it before. Now it feels like it's somewhat attainable. So, I will go in and not be as fearful and as skinflint as I was in the past, throwing $1 here and $3 there. Go in balls deep, head on with it.
Definitely. And what's good, Al? Thank you for checking in, my man. But yeah, man, I definitely feel you. I was able to win a little bit of money over the weekend, but nothing like that. Nothing.
I got killed on bets. This helped make up for it. I still ended up winning a few $100. Thankfully between all my lineups that landed me deep in there, and I was able to pay off the bookie with it. So that's the important part.
Got you. So let's go ahead. We'll get into we're gonna fly through a lot of things today. First, that being, we will quickly recap the Eagles and Falcons game one more time. I know you guys may have already had your chance to share your piece on it. I really haven't had mine. I haven't podcasted since the game, so this will be my first time kind of getting into it. From there, we'll get into just a quick, brief week one recap, just pinpoint a few games that caught our eyes. And then we'll, of course, move on to this week, week two. The first game of the week, Washington football team, New York Giants. We'll break down that matchup in the NFC East. One of those teams are coming out of tonight 0-2. They're going to be in the basement of the NFC East.
Beautiful.
And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And then we'll finish up with, of course, some fantasy, some gambling dips. And we'll get into some of these questions on the side here in the comments about fantasy as well. So, guys, let's talk about the Falcons and Eagles. What did you see? I'll let you go first, Sam. You're our guest. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you're thinking about this game of the Falcons and the Eagles? Eagles blowing these guys out 32-6 against all the doubters and all their beliefs. What is the first thought that comes to your mind, Sam?
Well, you know me very well. Dylan doesn't know me as well, but you know me, and you know the one person that I have, had like my tunnel vision on since November or October, and that's obviously Devontae Smith. His first regular season game as an Eagle after being drafted this year. I mean, I don't think I could have hoped for a better outlook. The touchdown pass was beautiful. Just to see him and Jalen Hurts working together finally like that, and how smooth this offense looked as a whole was, by far the best thing we could have seen in week one. And, while Atlanta's offense was really bad, our defense wasn't half bad either.
Yeah.
Still have that little, bend, don't break mentality to them. But it looks a lot. I think the coaching upheaval was a big thing for this team. So, new faces, new outlooks, new schemes. I think it really kind of worked for us.
Yeah, so far so good. I'm with you there. Obviously, Devontae Smith, very impressive. But overall, I think you saw, Nick Sirianni's game plan. He really got a lot of guys involved in the offense in reality. Dylan, what about you? What's your first takeaway that came from the game?
Oh, well, just to comment on something that Sam said, when you look at Devontae Smith, not just his first game, his first catch in the Eagles green is a touchdown pass from Jalen Hurts. Like, you couldn't have, popped the bottle on this champagne any better than it was for the Eagles 2021 season, the start of it. And then, Scotty, you talked about Nick Sirianni and that mentality. You did as well, Sam. Something that stuck out to me today, literally like an hour ago, the Eagles posted a video of Eric Wilson mic'd up, and he's in the huddle and at the Mike linebacker, and he's saying, we're dogs, let's go. The fact that mentality is reaching veteran players on throughout this locker room speaks volumes to me. Like, I didn't know if it was too corny, too cliche. I, had some jokes to say about Nick Sirianni early in his Eagles tenure, but he's winning me over for sure, and he's winning this locker room over for sure. But my biggest takeaway, Scotty, is a kid that I've been not skeptical of, but I just need to see more. And that's Jalen Hurts. And my God, did the kid impress in his opener in Atlanta. And what was the biggest knock? What was the biggest question mark, right? Well, he will never be a high completion percentage thrower. 27 of 35. I know it's a bad defense, and I know it's probably the worst pass defense in all the NFL, or right around there.
Yeah.
27 of 35. He didn't force anything. He missed one throw to Zach Ertz. That was it. He didn't leave the pocket too early. He only used his legs when needed. And then the last thing that I'll say is in his accuracy is, it sounds, corny to look at, but even in the bubble screens and even in the short passes, guys, a bubble screen's only, very successful for a chunk play when the receiver is led to the ball in motion. Every throw, the first three to Quez Watkins, the Jalen Reagor touchdown, everything was in motion, in stride. There was nothing behind him making him come back to the ball at his feet too high. He was spectacular on Sunday.
Yeah. And, I think, you were kind of basically hinting at it right there, but just taking what the defense gives you in general. And you saw that from Nick Sirianni. You saw that from Jalen Hurts. And quite frankly, it's something that we haven't seen the last few years, whether that was Carson Wentz's fault or Doug Peterson's fault. We just haven't seen it.
I mean, guys, my God, a coach calling plays to his quarterback strengths. Who the hell would have thought that was a good idea?
And, even last season with Carson Wentz, once the team was going downhill, he's in his head. You don't see him dump the ball off to running backs. It just was not happening. He's not making those short throws. He was always looking for the big play, playing hero ball. So it was just nice to see just a smart game plan and, taking what the defense gives you. I saw a great balance. They ran the football well. Jalen Hurts got out of the pocket a few times, but he did it smartly. It was a lot of designed runs out of the pocket, and he was able to rack up some rushing yards as well. Miles Sanders looked good. The offensive line, we haven't said anything about them. They looked amazing. Now, obviously, the front seven of the Atlanta Falcons, we'll see how that plays out throughout the season, how good they are. Obviously, they didn't look great. But overall, the offense was great. Let's talk about the defense. Sam, you mentioned it at the beginning, the bend but don't break. And we saw that very early in the game. The Falcons were running the ball down our throats. They were going down the field, getting in the red zone. I think it was the first 2-3 possessions they did that, which is where they got, their 6 points. But after that, the defense locked it up, and they really, put their foot down. It's almost like Jonathan Gannon got his feet under him. He started calling the defense fantastically. The defensive line was getting after it. And, a lot of people have been talking about it specifically. Sam, you'll know, Connor Miles, he had mentioned it in one of his articles this week.
Mm-hmm.
Darius Slay is going to have a great year this year. He's looking to reprove himself as an elite cornerback in this.
Needs to.
And having Steven Nelson on the other side definitely helps that as well. Having that help on the other side, not having, a terrible corner. Avonte Maddox had a great game. What stuck out to you, Sam, from the defensive side of the ball?
Well, for me, and I'm going to admit that I didn't watch the entire game. I was, stuck getting it where I could. I was really kind of stuck to highlights, so I watched as much as I could. But what I did notice was, even though Kyle Pitts was one of the most frequently targeted players on the Atlanta side, he only had 3 catches for, I believe it was 41 yards. So, I mean, the linebackers and Maddox, where he covered him in the few times, did a great job of locking him down. That was something like me. I had Pitts ranked as my tight end 2 on the week. Obviously, me being as unbiased as I could, I thought he was going to railroad us. So, I'm shocked, and a lot of people I know also had Kyle Pitts, ranked very highly in their rankings because Philly got smoked by tight ends last year.
Yeah,
I know nobody's forgotten the Tyler Higbee 3-touchdown game, almost literally a year to the day ago. So, we needed to show that we could lock down the middle of the field, which we have not been able to do for the past couple of years on a consistent level, and I think we did it. So, it remains to be seen whether this was just a great showing by guys who haven't really figured out Gannon's defense yet, or, this is actually a solid unit because we did add a lot of talent at the linebacker spot. Davian Taylor's finally there, Eric Wilson, So I mean, it's gonna show over the next few weeks whether we are for real, or this is just a wait till you get used to them type of thing. I hope it continues.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I just want to shout out Maddie. Daddy. Thanks for checking in, my man. Appreciate that. But yeah, to kind of ride your coattail there, we're going to get a real test in the 49ers. Obviously they're a little bit more beat up, but they're definitely stronger in the trenches than Atlanta. As far as skill positions, I was impressed with not only Kyle Pitts, but they actually hampered, they stopped and shut down Calvin Ridley, who a lot of people coming into the season had him as wide receiver 1, in the entire league. So to see us, come out and, 5 catches, 51 yards, so impressive. And then, of course, I'm sure you guys know, but Javon Hargrave, he finally came to the game.
Well, he's healthy.
Feel about Javon Hargrave, man.
He's healthy, dude. He's someone that we spoke to Connor Miles about. I know you brought him up earlier, but we asked him that he was part of our highlight on defense, and he's going to be a huge piece because for so long have the Eagles been looking for another tackle to put next to Fletcher Cox and alleviate double teams and his workload. And it was, the Timmy Jernigan thing. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl. That was the Timmy Jernigan year, I believe, right? Yeah. But then they tried out Malik Jackson, and he got injured, and it hasn't worked. Javon Hargrave comes in now, and he was hurt most of last year. And all you've heard out of training camp was he's healthy and he looks dominant. And you saw that early and often in week 1 with 2 sacks, I believe. But to your Jonathan Gannon point, and I want to ask you guys this just real quickly. We talked about the lack of preseason reps for Jalen Hurts in this offense. I wonder if the first 2 drives by Atlanta and this Eagles first team defense was a lack of game repetition and a lack of preseason reps because, dude, they locked up after that. They only allowed 2 field goals on the first drive. Scotty, you mentioned they got gashed by the run and Cordero Patterson early, but let's not act like they gave up a ton of yards on the ground because after the first quarter, the Eagles only allowed 1 run longer than 5 yards and held Atlanta to 2.8 yards per carry. They locked all windows and doors, as the great Mark Zumoff would say, and they locked Atlanta out of the end zone. That was my biggest thing. Dude, the Atlanta Falcons are not a good team.
Right.
But they got pieces on offense that both of you have already alluded to in Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts. And if Matt Ryan has time in a clean pocket, he can still let you up offensively, and they can put up points. They didn't get in the end zone. They were never a threat. I can't even recall really a big play in the passing game. The Eagles defense was stellar. All 3 corners you mentioned, Maddox, Slay, Nelson, all ranked in the top 20 in Pro Football Focus this week. Take that for what it is, but they were all really, really impressive this week.
Yeah, I mean, Pro Football Focus is your best friend when it backs your point, and it's your worst enemy.
And when it doesn't, you're like, who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you guys, and it'll just be interesting to see how it plays out. One thing I'll be looking at next week is kind of how Atlanta plays against Tampa Bay, right? The defending champions. It'll be interesting. Will they score more than 6 points on the Buccaneers? I'm sure they will. I mean, that's not a huge thing.
If 1 + 1 = 2, then if the Falcons score on the Buccaneers, the Eagles have better defense than the Buccaneers, right? I think that's how that works, right?
I do believe that's how that works.
Right. I was checking.
I mean, and especially statistically. But
Scott, I know you want to get through this real quick, but I just have one more shout out to make from my takeaways. You already talked about Nick Sirianni and his great play calling and playing to Jalen Hurts' strengths and playing to these wide receiver strengths and everything. Dude, he was just in control. Like, he looked first-time head coach, first-time play caller. He looked in control from start to finish. And that was something I really didn't expect to see. I thought you'd see some hiccups.
Yeah.
Everything ran smoothly. He had the team ready. They didn't play down to Atlanta. I have 0 complaints out of week 1.
Mm-hmm. And I think coming into the season, it's just, that underdog mentality that they're running with. And we've seen that before, and we've seen what that does when these guys have chips on their shoulders, or as Jalen Hurts would say, boulders, So these guys are coming out hungry. They want to prove themselves. You talk about different guys. You got people saying that Dallas Goedert doesn't deserve an extension. You got people saying that Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham are washed up. You got people saying that Javon Hargrave didn't deserve the money. Devontae Smith, Heisman winner, went 10th in the draft. How did he fall past, Jalen Waddle and Jamar Chase? You look at Jalen Hurts, everybody's saying he's going to fail. Everybody's saying Nick Sirianni, inexperienced head coach. So you just go down the line, and these guys all have chips on their shoulders. And nothing better than that for Eagles fans, right? We want these guys to come out and play inspired. And that was all I was asking out of this entire season, is to show us something, right? Come out and play hard, play like you're supposed to. The only thing I'll end this segment with is, as far as if there were any negatives, they're not really negatives. They're just things that didn't really have to happen. But I would just keep my eye on, turnovers. I'd like to see us get some turnovers against San Francisco. And then, obviously we didn't really need to stretch the field that much. I would like to see some shots eventually once we open that offense up.
Scotty, don't you worry, bud. We'll be talking about that 10 a.m. Sunday morning on Turf Talk's pregame show. Don't you worry.
We got it, man. So we'll leave it there with the Eagles and Falcons. Great game for the Eagles fans. Great game for the Eagles themselves. Let's get into the rest of the week one. We wanted to go through, kind of give one game that, kind of surprised us, and then one game that kind of disappointed each of us. So I don't know who wants to go first here. Sam, you haven't spoken in a while. We'll let you go first on this one. You want to start with your disappointment of the week?
Yeah, for me, it's pretty clear cut. It's got to be the Bills. They went into this game. They just came from the AFC Championship game. They're arguably a better team than the Chiefs last year. Josh Allen I thought should have won the MVP over Aaron Rodgers. So to see them come out flat, outside of Gabriel Davis, who looked good, their defense, was okay, but it wasn't great. They locked down Najee Harris, but outside of that, what do? Ben Roethlisberger is already not good. You should be able to blow the Steelers out through the air, because that's your strength. And the Steelers, for all their defensive strengths, weren't that great through the air, and they lost Steven Nelson. And so, I thought that the Bills would come in and they would win by 15 plus. I did not expect to see them down. I didn't expect to see them lose. So that was a massive disappointment for me, because it just wasn't great. And for fantasy, it was not great for the Bills.
And, I think, as we'll go in this trifecta here, we're all going to be talking about contenders, I feel like, in these disappointment segments. Yeah. And I think that's what comes into play with the Bills. Now, mind you, I will tote my own horn here. I did pick the Steelers to beat the Bills on Sunday's Turf Talk. But, I was going out on a limb there. I'm looking at the Steelers, who have a great defense. You have TJ Watt, that just got paid. He's coming out there motivated, I'm sure. But yeah, they were able to take care of business with Buffalo, which it's disappointing to see any contender come out and lose week one like that. But Dylan, I'll toss it to you, my man. Who was your disappointment of the week?
Well, I will go to another team that lost in their conference championship, and the actual MVP winner, Mr. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I'm speechless. I'm going to try to get my words out as best as I can, but I have no idea what the hell took place in Jacksonville with all the talk surrounding him and the organization, all the drama and the hype all off season long to come in. You're not even in the dome. You're at a neutral site in Jacksonville. Now, don't get me wrong. The whole team was terrible. The Packers defense was awful, but dude, he didn't look like he gave a shit. He made throws you never see Aaron Rodgers make. I know I'm not the first person that said that this week, but it's just the truth. Yeah. He didn't look like he cared. That punt ball, whatever you want to call it, that he just threw straight down the middle of the field. Come on, dude. What was going to happen on that play outside of an interception? Throwing the ball behind Devontae Adams by 16 yards, it looked like, for a pick going the other way. He was awful. The Packers were awful. No, you're right. It's one game. I feel like this happens every year with Aaron Rodgers, the classic RELAX. Maybe you have that mentality. You have a perfect get-right game at home at Lambeau against the Lions on Monday night this week. But by far, my biggest disappointment from week one was his performance and the Packers' performance.
Yeah, and so I'll toss a question to you guys. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, because he's been the talk of the town, throughout this week. was it just rust, or was it just him not giving a shit about the Packers that he wants out of there? Or is it a little bit of both? Like, what did you guys take it away as?
I'm going to go with something that, I'm going to paraphrase a quote that one of my good friends said. He looks like he realized that there are things outside of football. He looked like that he finally realized that after 15 years, football is not the most important thing in life. And, I think he's ready to walk away. I think, he said a few weeks ago that he legitimately gave retirement a 50-50 look. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it was much more than 50-50, and that he was probably this far away from saying, screw it. So I think this is his swan song. If he's going to play like this all season, it's going to be a really awful swan song that's going to kill his legacy. But
for sure, dude.
Yeah, man.
Talk about one of my favorite players ever, and before Patrick Mahomes came around, was probably
the most talented ever.
Yes,
the most talented ever play the game.
Not the greatest, but the most talented ever. And you're preaching to a dude that owns Aaron Rodgers in a fantasy league. So not loving this, Sam, but I agree with you, dude. He didn't look concerned. He didn't look phased. Even him and Matt LaFleur kind of not threw him under the bus, but made some comments after the game, and then they said that to Rodgers in his post game presser, and he basically said if that's what he wants to say, whatever, like one game, whatever, like he didn't care. He wasn't pissed off after the loss, nothing. So not a great look if you're a Green Bay Packers fan.
Luckily, the Packers, they can bounce back, right? They get the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football. So once again, Aaron Rodgers is going to be on prime time. He'll be right in front of everybody nationwide. And, if he lays an egg like that again, oh, my goodness, the stories that are going to come out. And mind you, the Lions, the Lions are the Lions, but they didn't look that bad coming back, against the 49ers. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, honestly. I hope that he's not throwing away his career with this season. So we'll get to the next one. Mine.
Whoa. I was going to say, what's yours? I thought you were – Yeah,
I got you. So mine was the Tennessee Titans, man. And for a lot of the same reasons as you guys, looking at the Packers and looking at the Bills. Coming into this season, everybody was talking about the Titans, that offense, adding Julio Jones to that offense with A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill. And these guys come out, not even that they gave up 30 points for me, like 38 points, because Kyler Murray is a great quarterback. They got a very fluid offense going on in Arizona, very dangerous offense. And I don't think 30-plus points to Arizona is that big of a deal. Obviously you don't want to do that. But first game of the season, I wouldn't call that a huge deal. 13 points from that offense, right? Derrick Henry held in check. Chandler Jones, he had 5 sacks?
5, yep.
5 sacks?
He won me an IDP league.
He's offensive line. I mean, my God. Yeah, once he gets to his third, don't you double team him? What's going on? I mean, I don't understand that. But, I'm just looking at, even the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, it's Mike Vrabel, right?
Yeah.
Vrabel. So he comes out after the game, and I believe he crucified Julio Jones. I didn't catch that game. I didn't catch what Julio Jones did in the game, but basically called him an idiot for whatever he did in that game. He got a penalty, something like that.
I think it was a penalty.
And he just said that's not a winning play. That's not something we can have on our team. And it seems like they're not relaxing in Tennessee. It doesn't feel like. And they mess around too much. I know the Colts lost as well. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because it looks like the Titans could possibly have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, on top of having offensive line issues. I know they had a ton of turnover in this offseason, and not a lot of people were paying attention to that, including myself. And now we're sitting here looking at their roster, and we're like, okay, when you're done talking about Derrick Henry, when you're done talking about A.J. Brown, when you're done talking about Tannehill and Julio, what do we talk about? Who are the players on this team? And it's not looking hopeful after a showing like that. obviously all of these teams can bounce back week 2 with an impressive win, and everybody will be right back there.
Tennessee's got a tough test, bro.
Yeah, they do. And
in Seattle.
Yeah, and the problem with Tennessee is the fact that, going from Arthur Smith to Todd Downing as their offensive coordinator has not, Todd Downing is not a good coach. He's not a good coordinator. Let me rephrase that. But so basically they're running a dumbed down version of Arthur Smith's offense. Looked pretty dumb.
Now, real quick before we get to our surprises, I feel like I don't remember. I had the Eagles game on most of the time. Before I would switch on to the red zone, but how early did they get down versus Arizona? Because Tennessee doesn't have a championship defense. But we know that they have AJ Brown and Julio Jones offensively, but they're reliant on the run. And if they got down early, that tells me. And obviously having Derrick Henry in a fantasy league and seeing his production in the first half with 0 freaking points tells me they had to shy away from the run to try to get themselves back in the game, and they weren't able to do it. So I think, a recipe for Tennessee is not getting down big early in a game.
Yeah, and
the Ravens
that was exactly what happened with them too. They went down 10-0 early. First 2 drives, it was 10-0 Arizona, and then after one more punt, they kind of just poured it on. They were down 24-6 at the half. When you're Tennessee, it's extremely hard to come back from that. The ball is going to either one of AJ Brown or Julio Jones every single time.
Yeah.
So, Derrick Henry is kind of obsolete at that point.
Yeah, at that point in the game, because he's not a great receiving threat. And then obviously before we move on from that game, shout out to Kyler Murray, put up great numbers. He had an amazing
TB1.
DeAndre Hopkins, yes. So they looked great. I'll start the surprise round off this time. I didn't want to pick a typical one. I obviously was looking at the Saints over the Packers. I was looking at it on the opposite end of the scale as there. Jameis, 5 TD, 5 passing TDs, something like that.
120 yards, baby.
120 yards. Like, what the hell? But no, they I think what's even more impressive is their defense. They were, while Aaron Rodgers did look a little questionable out there, their defense continued to look great. They were able to get pressure on Rodgers. The secondary has been good the last few years. They've had one of the best secondaries. But I'm looking at the Texans, man, and I know they were playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I know the Jags are just – obviously, they're the Jags, right? Even with Trevor Lawrence, they're still the Jags. But, I feel like the Texans were kind of just smoked as like the worst team in the league, right? You lost Deshaun Watson. He's probably not going to play this season, at least for them. And you throw Tyrod Taylor in there, and then you look around. It's like they got a couple different, I would call them above average running backs. But then
like 19 running backs.
19 running backs. They're all on the same level, though, right? Like,
yeah.
Then you throw in some Brandon Cooks and change out there. By the way, Brandon Cooks did go off in that game. Tyrod Taylor had a great game, and those running backs were able to get theirs. Mark Ingram had a great game. I think David Johnson caught a touchdown pass. So that's who I'm going to go with my surprise of the week. I'm going to be interested to see if they can actually compete in this division, because if that is the case,
I'll tell you. Can I give you that answer now?
We can give you that answer now. It's no.
It's 2 letters. Starts with N, ends in O.
Tyrod Taylor, man.
It's Jacksonville. They may actually be the worst defense in the NFL.
And that's what's crazy about it.
Urban Meyer's going to USC.
To USC.
Wait, real quick.
I hope so.
Some of those rumors, man.
Real quick before I get to mine, though, you mentioned the Rodgers part. I saw a tweet yesterday that was like, if a quarterback dropped back and threw the ball straight into the dirt, his QBR would be blank. And then it said Aaron Rodgers' QBR was blank, and it was worse than that.
Yeah.
Than the other QBR. And I was like, my God, dude. Talk about a bad game. But listen, I didn't want to, obviously the Cardinals are on that list. The Saints, as you mentioned, Scotty, for surprises. But I kind of didn't want to, I shied away from the opposite end of the spectrum of our disappointments. Honestly, from a team perspective, I would say our own Philadelphia Eagles, because I picked them to win. I didn't pick a 32-6 win and then look that clean and crisp on both sides of the ball. But I'll give some respect within the division. It's not a team, and they did lose. My surprise of the week is that Dak Prescott looked as good as he did coming off of that injury. So for everyone that just calls me a hater or whatever, I'm not. The dude looked phenomenal. The fact that Mike McCarthy, I mean, listen, I know that Tampa Bay probably has the best run defense in football, and they were taking what they gave him, and Dak was carving them up. Probably not the brightest idea to drop that quarterback coming off of that injury back in the pocket 58 times versus those pass rushers. But hey, what the hell do I know? But yeah, that's my surprise of the week is Dak Prescott's performance against one of the best defenses in football coming off that major injury.
I like that.
We're looking at that was the first game of Dak's record-breaking 6,000 yard season.
Wow. Bold prediction coming out already.
Now, are you saying that just because you think Dak's going to have an amazing season, or are you saying that because you just know Mike McCarthy's going to abandon the run?
I'm saying that because let's put it this way. Lael Collins is out for the foreseeable future, 6 games, I think it is. Zach Martin was on the COVID list. He's off, but we've seen it impact players before. There's really no way to tell. We know Tyron Smith's going to get injured at some point. He always does. So after that, there's really no option here. Once the Cowboys O-line falls apart, it's like a yearly thing for us now. We see it. The Cowboys O-line looks really strong in the first couple games of the year. Then they start to slowly fall apart. They slowly abandon the run, and then Dak starts running for his life and throwing a lot more. He's got 2 wide receiver 1 caliber players in Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. He has 2 very capable tight ends. He's got a running back that can catch in Zeke. He's going to be throwing the ball. He's not going to throw it 58 times a game, but I'm pretty confident he's going to be at least throwing it 40 times a game. I don't have any reason. I've done a complete 180 on Dak. Look, nobody was a bigger Dak hater than me a few years ago. I fully think that he's a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. He plays like it, and I think he'll be throwing a ton, and he's going to look good doing it. So that's why he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback for me this season. Even if he doesn't run that much, he's going to do it solely on the strength of his arm, and he's going to do it a ton.
And I do tend to agree with you there. I'm the same. Obviously, I was on the Wentz wagon for years there. Saying Wentz was better than Dak. It's not even a conversation anymore. Honestly, it's not even close. Dak has earned that. He's earned his spot. He's played well. He's put the Cowboys in good situations in the past. I don't know about last season. Obviously, we didn't get to see that play out,
except for week 17 of 2019, but
but no, Dak's interesting. And the other end of it, is the defensive side. They're going to give up a lot of points as well. So it's going to be a lot of throwing for Dak, a lot of throwing for that offense. But definitely a good pick there, Dylan. I do like that one. What about you, Sam?
Mine is going to be a team that I have talked endlessly about this offseason. I got a Super Bowl dark horse bet on them. I think they are one of the best rising teams in the league. That's the Los Angeles Chargers. Surprise win over the Washington football team. Win that I didn't expect. They looked good in all three levels of their defense for the first time that I can remember. Obviously, Derwin James is finally healthy. Joey Bosa finally seems healthy. So, and then Austin Eckler looked good, and while he didn't get a single target, he didn't really need to. But this is the first time that I've seen the Chargers look good all across the board. Their offensive line, which has been a big issue for them in the past, was honestly one of the best against one of the best front seven in the National Football League in Washington. I think we can all agree on that. They looked great. Rashawn Slater looked great. Brian Bulaga looked great. So, and Justin Herbert looked great.
I was going to throw, Sean Slater out there. I saw some tape on him over this, just highlight clips over this week, and everybody has been raving about Rashawn Slater.
Now, I just want to ask you guys before we move on to tonight's matchup, the other team in Los Angeles that I thought you were going to say that I like as a Super Bowl contender this year. It's not a surprise. It's not a disappointment, but boy, did that fit look good on Sunday Night Football.
Oh, my God. It looks so good.
Yeah, and I'm happy with Matthew Stafford, man. He deserves that.
He looked so at ease in that offense. I swear, it's something about Sean McVay. He just, unless your name is Jared Goff, he just makes quarterbacks look good.
Yeah, no, I truly believe it, and I do love the fit out there. The Chargers, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, I love Justin Herbert, on the offensive side there, but you mentioned the defense, and Derwin James, he's a guy that, highly renowned as the top safety in the NFL when he's healthy, right? Or at least top
But
3.
he hasn't been.
So he hasn't been healthy, so you can't give him that title anymore, but he can certainly earn it back this year if he can continue to play like that. But let's get into this Washington Football, New York Giants Thursday night matchup. The Daniel Jones versus the Taylor. Is it Heineke or Heineke?
Heineken, I don't know.
And I am not slandering him, Gint. I promise you I'm not slandering him today.
I'll slander him for you.
I think he's
don't
good.
have anything to base anything off of with this guy, so it's hard for me to slander him necessarily. But guys, what are your initial thoughts? I'll sling it to you, Dylan, first. When you're walking into this game, I guess what are you looking for when you're going into this game?
No idea. I have a same game parlay that I'm going to be rooting for, and I have Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin possibly going tonight that I'll be looking for. Outside of that, I'm an Eagles fan. Normally, this would be like a fun game to watch. Daniel Jones and the Giants proved last week that they stink still, and now Taylor Heineke is in the quarterback role. Yeah, is he meaning to say G-Men? Is he a Giants fan?
G-Man.
I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry.
Is a Giants fan, though, yes.
I am. Apologies to you, but I have no idea, to be honest with you. I guess you could say, can Daniel Jones try to, fight for his career in New York tonight? Because, my God, I think I heard earlier he's 4-0 against Washington, but he's 0-5 on primetime games.
Yep.
But he's also, even though he's 4-0 against Washington, he only has 4 wins in his career against other opponents not named Washington. So against this Washington defense, they can't start 0-2. I guess, can Daniel Jones fight for his career in New York? And reversely, can Taylor Heineke keep Washington afloat while Fitzpatrick's out? Or does he play so well that Fitzpatrick doesn't have a job to come back to? But outside of that, I want to sit back and hope that my bets in fantasy hit.
He will fumble twice tonight. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was.
He's at least fumbling once, bro. He's at least fumbling once.
Sam just mentioned the Washington Football team's great front 7. That front 4 is going to get after it tonight. And, the Giants, I mean, you look at their issues, it starts with the offensive line, right? And, let me give some blame to Daniel Jones too, but it does start with the offensive line. If you can't protect him, he's running for his life. It's going to cause turnovers. He turns the ball over at an excessive rate. But with that being said, I'm looking over to the Washington Football side. I'm looking to the team that I think is a little bit more formidable in the division. So I'm just looking for positives for them with Taylor Heineke. When you're looking at Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's going to be out for a while, if not the whole season this year. So if Taylor Heineke, can step up into this role, get them a few wins, who's to say he won't just keep the job the rest of the season, right? But I do think Heineke's set up more for success tonight. You're looking at a Washington Football team. They have some good weapons on the offensive end with Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, a tight end I really like. And then you can throw in Gibson there as well. I got him in a couple fantasy leagues, but love his game. Sam, what are you looking at tonight? Is there anything that you're pinpointing in the game or anything that you think is going to catch your eye? Are you going to watch the game?
Yes, I'm going to watch the game. I also plan to drink heavily during the game because I just think it's going to be a miserable football game. I don't see this being a game that is interesting in the least. It's probably going to be a low scoring game. You know, like Dylan said, I'm one of the biggest Antonio Gibson fans, you know, in our fantasy space that I know. I'm watching for him.
Yeah,
That's my guy. That's who I want to see. I got some props with Logan Thomas in there, you know, because Taylor Heineke keyed in on him. So some prize picks parlays with Gibson and Thomas and Sterling Shepard, who I also thought looked great, and I have him on a few fantasy teams. But other than that, I mean, look, this is, you know, we're Eagles fans. This is a game that doesn't mean much to us outside of the fact that one of the two teams is going to be 0-2, and we're pretty certain that this is probably a game between a fight for third in our division. So, you know,
well,
I mean,
to be honest, that, you know, heading into week 1, I kind of liked Washington at the top of this division, or at least fighting with Dallas. I thought the Eagles were in that 2-3 range. Now with everything going on, probably Giants and Washington fighting for the third spot.
Yeah, I think with Fitzpatrick, that it's a different conversation. I think with Heineke in there, and if Heineke proves to be good, it's a whole different story. But you know, I think Heineke's, you know, Heineke's a top 32 quarterback, but maybe he might not. He's probably not you know, any higher than 25 or 26.
That was awesome.
So
he's a top 32 quarterback.
top 32.
He could be a starter.
He is a starting quarterback in this league.
He's a starter, but he's not good.
Chase Young went out on a limb, I guess you could say, and said that he could start for any other team in the NFL. He said so. Ooh. Interesting statement. I guess he's instilling confidence in his quarterback. But it'll be interesting.
Can I give you the answer to that one? Can I give you the answer to that one? 2-letter word. Starts with N, ends with O. Taylor Heineke could not be a starting quarterback for any other team in the league.
Yeah, I don't think, you know.
I guess the multiverse.
There's no thinking about it. There's actual knowledge that it's a no.
I was thinking maybe Houston, and like, no, Tyrod Taylor looked better. Better. I don't know, man, but I'm also looking at Kenny Golladay. I want to see how he can affect the Giants.
Like you said that, because there isn't much to talk about with this game, but I got to ask you guys. Let's get to the fun stuff, Sam. Some fantasy and gambling stuff within this game.
Yeah, let's talk about it. That's really what this game's about, right? That's where
exactly. That's the only interest that if anyone's watching this game tonight, it's because of that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's from our Joe's talk down here. You know, the Giants fans and the Washington football team fans. But
and again, if you're one of those fans, my apologies to you.
And what's up with the schedule, man? The Thursday night football. I mean, the Washington football team and the Giants, and then
here's my question.
They like to give us bad games on Thursday in order to make us salty and then want to watch more on Sunday and Monday. I feel like that's the whole marketing.
But everyone dogs the NFC East, and then the year after, it's probably the worst division in NFL history. 3 of the first 4 teams to play on Thursday night are NFC East opponents. And then in week 3, Monday night, are 2 more NFC East opponents.
Eagles and Cowboys.
It's questionable. But all right, Sam, let me get your thoughts on this, right? First of all, shout out to DraftKings. Another $25 risk-free same-game parlay tonight. All right.
I wish I lived in New Jersey where it was legal to do DraftKings on that.
And Pennsylvania, man. Don't forget PA.
Yeah,
I'll leave the two tougher ones of my 7 legs for the end. I got Washington football team money line.
Okay.
I think that they win this game, right? Okay. I got Daniel Jones over 14.5 rushing yards.
I like that. I wish I had a number. I got 21.
All right. I got Terry McLaurin over 59.5 receiving yards.
I think you still have to bet it even with Heineke.
Logan Thomas over 34.5 receiving yards.
Got it.
Antonio Gibson 60+ rushing yards.
You know.
All right. Now here we go. Logan Thomas anytime TD scorer. I think he's Heineke's favorite target in the red zone.
I agree.
And then I just had to go out. Scotty, you just mentioned him. And I got a feeling the Giants are going to score tonight. Who? Kenny Golladay, anytime touchdown scorer. $25 pays out $1,400.
That would be a nice hit.
Can it be done?
It can definitely be done. Everything there seems like it'll hit which means one of the obvious ones is going to miss.
Thank you.
Right.
There it is. There it is.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. The one that I would see not hitting, if I was to guess, I would say Kenny Golladay. That would be the one.
Yeah, I mean that's the toughest one. Obviously, trying to predict.
But I feel like that's going to hit.
That's what drives the odds to go up.
Yeah, definitely. Did he get in the end zone last weekend?
No,
I don't believe so.
Just
maybe they try to get him in the end zone this weekend. He's their new wide receiver 1, so maybe they try to get him in the end zone this weekend. Might be a good call.
Quarterback for Washington on Golladay. Is it William Jackson?
They did pick up William Jackson.
Who covers the ones? Who covered Keenan Allen or who covered Mike Williams last week?
Can't remember, man.
I don't know.
I didn't watch enough of the game to know.
Yeah, I didn't watch.
If Kenny Golladay is out there healthy, he should be the guy. If not, it's Sterling Shepard. I'm betting he's still not healthy because I don't think he is, but could happen. That just means he's going to score.
Kendall Fuller, their CB1.
Keep talking down on it, Sam. Keep talking down on it.
I hope it hits.
No, you know what'll happen. I'll hit everything, right? But the Giants will win the goddamn game. That
is what happens every single time. This would be the game, everybody's talking shit on Daniel Jones, and all of a sudden he lights the Washington football team up on Thursday Night Football. What's the word on Saquon Barkley? Is he playing tonight?
I haven't seen anything.
Yes, he's playing. Here's going to be the thing with Saquon. A great person to talk to about this is Stephania Bell, who of course is on Fantasy Focus on ESPN, as the injury consultant there with Barry and Yates. And she was on my buddy's show a couple of weeks ago. Basically said this: he's going to come out as questionable pretty much every week this season because as he's still coming off the ACL reconstruction only 11 months ago. You have to be cautious. When easing him back, especially if you intend to pay him. Everything the Giants have done so far says they intend to pay him a second contract. So they want to ease him along. They don't want to rush him into anything. By letting him kind of essentially split carries with Devin Booker last week and easing him slowly into the game, he looked a little bit explosive last week, but he didn't force any missed tackles, which I don't think he's ever not done. Given how, shifty Saquon is. So, you basically know he's going to be questionable, but he's going to be a go unless he has a setback of some sort. That being said, I'm not choosing to worry about Saquon until after week 3. So, whatever happens in these first 3 games is what it is. I'm going to start him. I'm going to say, go ahead. What happens? I have him in a few leagues. Whatever happens, happens. And if it starts to continue beyond week 3, that's when I start getting worried and wondering, is something wrong?
Yeah. And, I'm not going to lie to you. Saquon's definitely somebody I stayed away from this season, especially in fantasy football, only because I've been burned like too many times by this guy, like going out for the season. But with that being said, this is kind of an off-topic question, but I saw an interesting tweet today that said, what if or do you think that Miles Sanders could end up having a better career than Saquon Barkley? How do you guys feel about that?
Definitely possible.
And how crazy would that be as a second? Miles Sanders was a second-round pick, ending up better than I believe Saquon was taken 4th or 6th in his draft. Who was 6th? Zeke was 6th, right?
Zeke was 4th. Saquon was 2nd. 4th.
Saquon was 2nd. Oh my God, I didn't even remember that. But yeah, and rightfully so. He was a stud coming out. But at this point,
I wouldn't predict. I don't believe that'll be the case. But
yeah, I don't believe it either.
Injuries are a major concern, and it's not impossible. But no, Miles Sanders still has to prove in an Eagles uniform that he can be a featured every down type of back, which he's not being used as that and never has. So to say he could have a better career than Saquon, it's definitely a stretch. But obviously, if Saquon's career is stunted short because of injuries, then yeah. But that's the only way capable of that happening.
And sorry, go.
No. Go ahead.
I've always been a staunch, thought that injury prone doesn't exist. it's kind of just a morally ambiguous kind of concept. It's he said, she said. Someone could be injury prone, but also not at the same time.
Yeah.
People thought Carson Wentz was injury prone, but in reality, he kind of just had a bunch of mishmash of injuries, none of which were correlated to each other. That were essentially all freak accidents.
Yeah.
They could happen to anybody. Anybody could go, I could stand up from this chair and break my leg, basically, type of thing. So, the thought of that, knock on wood, is that, Saquon's not injury prone, even though people have kind of slapped that label on him.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to say that, barring that, he would have a worse career than Miles Sanders.
Yeah. And
all right, man.
I do think, honestly, just to kind of coattail on that before we move on there, I've been hearing that a lot lately. There's really no such thing as injury prone, or, even when I was talking about, this is totally off topic, John Wall, everybody was wanting John Wall, trade Ben Simmons for John Wall. And, my thing was like, oh, the injury concerns, right? Or he's injury prone, or I don't want an injury prone guard beside, Joel Embiid, who's had his history of injuries. And, somebody else said that to me. He's like, everybody in the NBA is injury prone, right? Like we saw it last season. All the stars went through their series of injuries throughout the season. And it's something that you're kind of seeing in all sports. There's really no point in labeling somebody injury prone when your favorite player could end up getting injured in their next game. But Dylan, you had something. Did you want to?
I was just going to get to Gint's question before we get to final predictions.
That's good. Yeah, follow back to
Gint
that.
has some fantasy stuff over here. Start 2 of 3: James Robinson, Jamar Chase, and Darrell Henderson. Sam, we are going to opt this one off to you, the fantasy guru that you be.
Let me see who's everyone's playing. I'm starting Chase, that's for sure.
Sweet.
Jacksonville plays Denver, and the Rams play Indy.
Ooh.
Give me Henderson. Until I find out what the hell Urban Meyer's doing.
Yeah.
Whether he decides to retire again or stay. Give me Henderson and definitely Chase.
Here's the bad question. Ginn says, Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins.
I do
Revenge
know that
game.
this is a 16-team league that he's in for this one. He's got injuries that he has to start one of these two.
Well, this is the revenge game for Sammy Watkins. And if there's one certain thing in fantasy football, you always play the revenge game. They're playing the Chiefs. I'm starting Watkins. There's not just week 1, Sammy. We also have revenge games, Sammy, against the Bills, against the Chiefs.
And then lastly, what fantasy plays do you love tonight, Sam? Pretty sure you told me to. Were you on the McLaurin train tonight, or were you?
Yes, Keenan and Godwin. I said Keenan and Godwin just because of Heineke. Godwin, they're going up against Atlanta.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what we just did. Tom Brady can do equally that or better. And Keenan Allen is my wide receiver 2 this week against Dallas.
Okay.
As are most weeks, a wide receiver 1 will be pretty high up in my rankings against Dallas. Mike Evans was wide receiver 6 last week and kind of failed, but
I got one more for you, Sam. And this feels like one that I'm going to be asking every single week, and it's between Brandon Cooks and Deebo Samuel. Who would you go this week? Obviously, the Niners are playing against the Eagles. The Texans are playing.
Oh, he just said it.
I'm looking.
Or no, he didn't. I'm sorry. Jacksonville's playing.
Texans are playing. I skipped right by it.
My thing with the Texans and my thing with
Miami.
They're playing Cleveland. Cleveland. So I'm probably gonna go. Cooks again this week.
And he's like their only targets.
And look, I was never on Brandon Ayuk. I've been off him. Was off him last year. Got burned. Doubled down this year, and basically Kyle Shanahan says he's the worst wide receiver on the roster. So that would typically lead me to say Deebo. because Debo looks really good, and I remember Debo crushing us the last time the Eagles and 49ers played.
Yeah.
Whether that was a year ago or 2 years ago, I don't remember.
I think it was
But
he gets involved in the running game.
Yep, and he cooked. I think he cooked us for like a 40-yard run last time.
Yeah.
So, there's always that threat, but I don't know. I'm tempted to ride with this Eagles defense for as long as I can, and say Brandon Cooks once again gets it done as a wide receiver 2 level player. I mean, Tyreek Hill just cooked this defense. I don't see any reason why Brandon Cooks, who was thought of as a kind of the pre-Tyreek Hill, before Tyreek Hill type player. So maybe he goes off again for another 150.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, before we wrap up tonight's show, I do need score predictions for Thursday night and predictions for winner. Scotty and I, obviously, we went with Tampa last week. We are 1-0. We're going to keep track of this all year long here on Turf Talk. Sam, you are the guest, so we will let you kick off. Giants or Washington, and if you got a score.
I'm going to go Washington, and I'm going to go with the under 20-16.
Oh, man, I was thinking that score. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to go a different way, but I was thinking that, man.
Scotty, go ahead, man.
I got Washington football team. Man, for my parlay, I'm going to go 23-13 Washington football team. They get over the 20-point mark. How about
Scotty,
that?
Man, you were so close. I am going Washington. I have it written down. 24-14 will be the final score.
So 10 points either way.
Yeah, you were right there. We all have Washington on board. So either, boys, we were all going 0 for 3 together and going down together, or we'll be successful.
It's the only way to do it.
That's how it always goes, man. I swear.
Yes, sir.
But
all right, Scotty, anything else? Sam, anything else? Sam, any plugs? What do you got going on? Where can people find you, find your work and everything?
Well, you guys can find me all over Twitter at Swagman95 on there. My staff writing over at Ball Blast FB, and then my some of my spotty contributions to the season on Football Guys, and every week I do a waiver wire show for Ball Blast. That's on every Tuesday at 9:00 on the Twitter channel.
Nice.
Awesome, man.
Definitely want to get your fantasy input from my man Sam. He's got it covered. He's into it, man. But definitely appreciate you joining us today, Sam. Dylan,
thanks for having me.
And as always, guys, this is going to be it for this show tonight. Make sure you're tapping the DSM media.
Sunday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Sunday. I'm not going to lie to you. This game tonight is not giving me very entertaining vibes, but I'll have a brew and I'll enjoy it. Got some money on it. Got to invest into the game somehow to make it interesting. But, guys, make sure you're tapped into DSM Media at DSM_media on Twitter. The link tree for all of our social media platforms will be in the reply to this show. So you'll be able to find us across all of our platforms, including podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Make sure you're tapped in. We'll be doing giveaways throughout the season. Going to have a lot of fun this season. We'll be back Sunday to talk some Birds 49ers.
10
Definitely
a.m.
have some fun with that. Thank you once again, Sam. And that's going to be it for this show, guys. Peace.